Not gonna lie, I never thought my own mother would betray me like this. One day I get a call. And just like that, I find out my childhood home, the place I grew up, the place I thought would always be there, was sold behind my back for $400,000. And here's the kicker, she didn't use the money to help me. Or to split it fairly. No, she handed every last dollar to my sister like I didn't even exist. You ever had that happen? Where the ground just disappears under you. Where the people who should protect you, take everything instead. I was angry. Really angry. And truth is, that was the moment something inside me snapped. That house wasn't just a house to me. It was where I learned how to throw a ball with my dad in the backyard. Where I carved my initials into the old oak tree by the fence. Where I stayed up late cramming for finals at the kitchen table while my mom made coffee to keep me awake. It was the smell of Sunday pancakes. The sound of my grandma humming while she folded laundry. The place I thought I could always come back to when life got hard. And now, gone. Just like that. Sold. Erased. Handed off like it never meant anything. I remember hanging up the phone with my mom. Just sitting there in my car in total silence. Gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. She said it so casually. Like she was telling me what she had for lunch. We sold the house. Honey, we got $400,000. Don't worry. Your sister needs it more than you do. And those words, she needs it more. I swear, if I had $1 for every time I'd heard those words growing up, I'd have my own fortune by now. She needed the new clothes. She needed the extra tutoring. She needed the car for college. She needed the spotlight at every family gathering. And me? I was fine. I'd figure it out. Always. I was the one who was supposed to be tough. The one who never needed help. But truth is, everyone needs to feel like they matter. And in that moment, I realized, I never did. I mean, imagine that. The place you built your whole childhood around. The place you thought was your anchor. Your safety net, sold without a word. Without even the decency of a conversation. And then the money. The $400,000. Handed to my sister like a gift bag. I sat there in that car for hours. Replaying everything. I thought about Grandma. How she used to sit me down and tell me, one day this home will be your anchor. Never let go of your roots. And guess what? Those roots were yanked out of the ground while I wasn't even looking. I was hurt. I was angry. I was broken. And I promised myself right there, this time, I'm not staying quiet. This time, they're gonna hear me. And trust me, what I revealed after that didn't just shake them. It left them frozen. After I found out, I couldn't think straight for days. I kept replaying that call with my mom in my head. The way she said it so casually. Like selling off my childhood home was the same as cleaning out an old closet. And truth is, the more I thought about it, the more it burned inside me. I tried to work. I tried to focus. But every time my mind drifted, it went straight back to that house. That number. Those words. Your sister needs it more. I mean, you ever had something that was supposed to be yours? Something sacred, just handed off to someone else without even asking you? That's the kind of betrayal that doesn't let you sleep. So I picked up the phone, called her back, and I said, Mom, what you did, it's not right. That was my home too. That was my childhood. How could you sell it without telling me? And she just sighed, like I was being dramatic, and said, Honey, it was time. Houses don't last forever. We needed to do what's best for the family. And I snapped. I said, No, Mom, you didn't do what's best for the family. You did what's best for her. Again, always her. And she got quiet, real quiet. Then she said the line that still makes me shake when I think about it. She said, Well, she's the one who deserves it. You'll be fine. You always are. I just stared at the wall with the phone pressed to my ear. My heart pounding. Deserves it? My sister deserves my childhood home. My roots. My memories. My inheritance? And me? I just figure it out? I was angry. Really angry. But anger can only boil inside for so long before it spills over. So I drove to her house. I didn't even call ahead. I knocked on the door, and when she opened it, I looked her straight in the eye and said, We need to talk. She invited me in, trying to act like nothing was wrong. Pouring coffee. Asking me about work. And I stopped her mid-sentence and said, Why? Why did you give everything to her? She tried to smile. Tried to smooth it over. But I wasn't letting her. She said, You don't understand. She's struggling. She needed the help. And I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. Struggling? Struggling while she drives a brand new SUV? Struggling while she posts her vacations on Instagram? Struggling while I've been scraping to save for a down payment on a house of my own? And mom just shook her head and said, "You're stronger. You don't need the same kind of help." And that's when it hit me, this wasn't about money. It was about how she saw us. My sister was the delicate one. The one who needed protecting. Me? I was the workhorse. The one who could be used and ignored. And I said to her, "You took away the last piece of home I had. And you didn't even think I deserved to know. Do you realize what that feels like?" And she didn't answer. She just looked away. Like if she avoided my eyes long enough the truth would disappear. But here's the thing, the truth doesn't disappear. It sits there, waiting, heavy as stone. And I walked out of that house that day with a decision in my chest. I wasn't going to let this pass. I wasn't going to swallow it down like I always had. This time, I'd make sure she and everyone else knew exactly what she'd done. And trust me, the way it all came out later left her speechless. Left my sister frozen. And left me standing taller than I ever had in my life. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't just hurt once. It's like a splinter under your skin. You feel it every time you move. That's how it felt in the days after I confronted my mom. I couldn't shake it. Every time I tried to let it go, I'd remember another memory from that house. Another piece of myself that got sold without a word. Another reminder that my sister was now sitting on $400,000 that should have been shared. Or at least respected. And here's the thing, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just keep this between us. No, not this time. My whole life had been about staying quiet. Swallowing things down so the family looked good on the outside. But not anymore. Truth is, I needed them to feel what I felt. I needed them to hear the truth. Even if it burned. So when my sister threw her engagement party a few weeks later, I decided that was the moment. The whole family would be there. The cousins, the uncles, the aunts, even family friends who'd known us since we were kids. Perfect. I showed up early. And as soon as I walked in, I could feel the stares. People knew something was off. My mom barely looked at me. My dad gave me that tight smile he always used when he was angry but pretending not to be. My sister came over in her glittering dress, hugging me like nothing was wrong, whispering, "Please don't ruin this for me." And I just looked at her, my jaw tight, and said, "That depends on how honest you're ready to be." She froze for a second before walking away quickly, pretending everything was fine. The night went on, music playing, people drinking, laughing, clinking glasses. On the surface it looked like any other celebration. But under it, there was this tension, like everyone could feel something building. And when the time came for speeches, my mom stood up first. She raised her glass, her voice full of pride, talking about how strong our family was. How much she loved both her children. How she'd always done everything for us. And I swear, my stomach turned. I was angry, really angry, because in that moment, she was painting herself as the perfect mother, while I stood there knowing the truth. And then my sister got up, thanking everyone for being there, thanking mom and dad for all the sacrifices they made, talking about how blessed she felt. And I just stared and waited, because I knew my turn was coming. When people started chanting for me to say something, I took the mic. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. "You know," I started, glancing around the room. "Families are complicated. We all talk about love, about sacrifice, about doing the right thing. But sometimes, the truth isn't so pretty." The room quieted down. My mom's smile faltered. My sister's eyes widened. And I said, "A few weeks ago, I found out something that changed the way I see this family forever. My childhood home, the place I grew up, was sold behind my back. Sold for $400,000. And you'd think maybe the money would be split fairly. Maybe it would be talked about. But no, my mom sold it, and every single dollar went to my sister." Gasps filled the room. People started whispering, looking at my parents, looking at her. My mom shot up from her seat, hissing, "Stop this right now." But I shook my head and said, "No, you stop. You stop pretending this family has been fair. You stop pretending you've treated me the same. You didn't even tell me the house was gone until it was too late. You just handed it over to her like I didn't matter." My dad barked, "Enough. You're embarrassing your mother." And I laughed bitterly. Embarrassing her? She embarrassed herself when she stole my childhood home. I'm just telling the truth. The silence that followed was heavy, thicker than anything I'd ever felt. People stared at us, some shocked, some nodding like they finally understood something that never made sense before. And in that moment, I realized I'd crossed the line. There was no going back. But I also realized something else, for the first time. My voice was louder than theirs. And trust me, what came next took everything to another level. The silence in that room was suffocating. You could feel it pressing on your chest. Like the whole place was holding its breath. My sister's face turned pale. Her fiancé shifted uncomfortably beside her. And my mom, her lips were trembling but her eyes burned with fury. She finally stood up, her voice sharp, saying, "This is not the place to air dirty laundry." And I said, "No, Mom, this is exactly the place. Because you wanted everyone to see how perfect this family is. How generous you are. How much you love your daughter. Well, they deserve to see the truth too." The whispers grew louder. Some people shook their heads. Some crossed their arms. But no one walked away. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. My dad slammed his hand on the table, his glass tipping over and spilling red wine across the white cloth. And he shouted, "Enough. You're humiliating your mother and your sister." I just stared at him, stared and waited, and then I said, "They humiliated themselves the moment they sold my childhood home without even telling me. The moment they decided my sister mattered more than I did." My sister jumped up, her voice cracking. "I didn't ask for it. I didn't know." And I turned to her, my voice low but steady. "Really? You didn't ask how Mom and Dad magically came up with $400,000? You didn't think to question it when they told you it was all for you? You knew. Maybe not every detail, but you knew. And you took it anyway." Her fiancé put his arm around her shoulders, whispering something I couldn't hear. But she pulled away from him, sobbing. And the room was frozen, caught between pity for her and shock at what my parents had done. An uncle finally spoke up, his voice shaking. "Is this true?" And my mom couldn't answer. She just sat down, covering her face with her hands. My dad's jaw tightened, his pride shattered, and for once, he had no words. The people who always controlled the narrative, always made themselves look noble, were exposed in front of everyone. And you know what? I felt calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. Because finally, I wasn't carrying it alone. Finally, the truth was out where it belonged. The DJ tried to play music again, trying to cover the tension. But no one danced. People gathered in small circles, whispering, some glancing at me with nods of respect, others staring at my parents with disbelief. My mom left early, her face red, her eyes swollen. My dad trailed after her, silent, humiliated. My sister stayed, but she couldn't look anyone in the eye. The fairy tale they tried to create had shattered, and all that was left was the broken pieces of truth scattered for everyone to see. And here's the thing, that night wasn't the end. No, it was just the beginning. Because once the truth is out, you can't take it back. And the fallout that came after, it changed everything. After that night, nothing in my family was the same. You know how people say the truth sets you free? Well, it does. But it also burns everything in its path. The days after the party were filled with phone calls, messages, whispers from relatives. Some people told me I was brave, that I did what they wished they'd had the guts to do in their own families. Others said I was cruel, that I should have kept quiet, that I should have let my sister have her moment. But you know what? None of those people had their childhood ripped away in silence. None of them had to watch their own mother erase their existence for the sake of someone else. I didn't need their approval. I just needed the truth out. My mom didn't speak to me for weeks. When she finally called, her voice was thin, almost brittle. She said, "I can't believe you humiliated us like that. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you." And I stopped her right there. I said, "No, Mom, Grandma would be ashamed of you. She told me to protect my roots, to honor the home she loved. And you sold it like it was nothing." And she hung up. My dad sent a short text. "You went too far." I just stared at it, stared and waited, before deleting it without replying. Because the truth is, I didn't go far enough. For once, I finally stood up for myself. And guess what? It felt right. My sister sent me a long message. Pages of excuses. Saying she didn't know. Saying she never asked for it. Saying it wasn't her fault. And maybe she believed that. But the fact is, she accepted it. She took the money and never thought twice. So I didn't reply to her either. I realized something in those weeks. Family isn't just blood. Family is who respects you, who values you, who protects you when you're not in the room. And by that definition, my parents and my sister? They stopped being my family the moment they sold my home. A few months later, I met with a lawyer. I showed him the will, the papers, everything, and he told me clear as day. You could fight this. You could get back what's yours. And I thought about it long and hard. Part of me wanted revenge. Wanted to drag them into court. Wanted to make them pay for what they did. But another part of me, the tired part, the part that had carried this weight my whole life, just wanted peace. So I didn't sue. I let them keep their $400,000. Because in the end, the money wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the truth. Spoken out loud, in front of everyone who used to think I was invisible. What mattered was me breaking free from a lifetime of being the afterthought. And here's the thing. When I drive past that old street now, when I see the house with new paint and a different family's car in the driveway, yeah, it hurts, but it also reminds me of the line I drew that day. No more silence. No more being the one who figures it out. That part of me is gone. And I want you to hear me on this. If you've ever been betrayed by your own blood, if you've ever been told you don't matter, if you've ever had to swallow your pain so everyone else could smile, trust me. You don't have to keep swallowing it. You don't have to keep playing along. You can stand up, you can speak, and you can watch the room freeze when they realize the truth is finally out. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't taking the money back. Sometimes the greatest revenge is showing them you don't need it to be stronger than they'll ever be. And that's exactly what I did.